This is a video about flame calorimetry, which comes up as part of the AQA A-level Chemistry topic of calorimetry. We'll look at both some practical considerations for doing flame calorimetry and also the calculations involved in using the data from that practical to calculate a value for standard enthalpy of combustion. Calorimetry is the process of working out an enthalpy change during a chemical reaction by measuring a temperature change, and loosely speaking, there are two main types. There's calorimetry where we look at the reactions of solutions, or that could even include solutions where there's no chemical reaction taking place, but maybe there's some dissolving taking place. So that could be things like your second required practical for AQA A-level Chemistry. And then there's also flame calorimetry, where we burn a fuel and then we collect the energy from that exothermic chemical reaction and use that to heat up some water. We can then measure the temperature change of the water and use that information to calculate a value for the standard enthalpy of combustion. Regardless of which one of these types of calorimetry we're looking at, we're going to want the formula Q equals mc delta T. Now, you might not recognise this at first, but you did encounter this formula as part of GCSE physics. The slightly confusing thing is, though, that the physicists and the chemists use different letters for the same thing. So Q is our energy change, or the energy released. And in GCSE chemistry, this was referred to as delta and then capital E, but we now use Q. And this is going to be measured in joules. And that's really, really important because after we've calculated a value for Q, we're going to go on to try and work out a value for the standard enthalpy of combustion. And when we work out a standard enthalpy, that's going to be in kilojoules per mole. So you're going to use this equation to get an answer that's in terms of joules, and then you're going to need to convert by dividing by 1,000. Now, M is the same as in GCSE physics in that it refers to mass. But there are two important things to point out at this point. One is that this is the mass of whatever is being heated up. Now, in GCSE physics, when you use this equation, you were usually thinking about something like an aluminium block being heated. Here, we're going to be thinking about the water in this flame calorimetry. And the mistake that we see lots of candidates making is that you're also, as part of this experiment, going to measure the mass of the fuel. And that is not the mass that we're using here. It's got to be the mass of the water in the calorimeter that's being heated up. And then the second thing that's a little bit different is that we don't actually use the SI units for mass, which would be kilograms. Instead, we're almost always talking about mass in terms of grams. Then C, just like in GCSE physics, is for specific heat capacity. So this is the amount of energy that it takes to raise the temperature of a particular substance by 1 degree C. And here we're going to be thinking about it in terms of joules per gram per Kelvin. And then finally, we have temperature change, which in GCSE physics you used a theta sign for. Here we're now using a capital T. And here we're going to talk about it as being in degrees C or Kelvin. Technically speaking, it should be Kelvin to make it square with your specific heat capacity units. But the thing is that degrees C and Kelvin, they kind of move in lockstep with each other. So 1 degree C and 1 Kelvin are exactly the same size. The 0 is just in a different place. So if you measure the change in temperature from 0 degrees to 20 degrees, and you measure it from 273 Kelvin to 293 Kelvin, it's exactly the same temperature change. It's 20, whichever way you look at it. So let's keep this straightforward to start with. 50 grams of water is heated so that the temperature rises from 20 degrees C to 55 degrees C. The specific heat capacity of water is 4.18 joules per gram per Kelvin. How much energy has the water absorbed? So the formula that we're using equals Q equals mc delta T. So that's going to be 50 times 4.18 times the temperature change between 55 and 20. So that gives us an answer of 7,315 joules. Now let's think about a few of the considerations that are important when we're carrying out the practical that is going to allow us to collect the data to work out a value for the standard enthalpy of combustion. The first thing is that, generally speaking, we don't measure masses of liquids. We tend to measure volumes. So this measuring cylinder here seems quite sensible. But in order to do our calculation, we need to know the mass of the water that's been heated. Well, actually, this is fine because the density of water is 1 gram per centimetre cubed. And what that means is that if I've measured out 50 centimetres cubed, then I know that I have 50 grams. The second thing is this piece of equipment here, which is called a copper calorimeter. Now, copper, of course, has a high thermal conductivity, and that's a good thing in this instance because we want as much of the energy that's been released from burning the fuel as possible to be transferred to the water so that the water changes temperature. If we used something like a glass beaker, that would be a better insulator, and therefore less of the energy released would make it into the water, and we would underestimate our value for enthalpy of combustion. We might also choose to add a lid to the top of this calorimeter, and that's going to prevent some evaporation from taking place and heat losses to the atmosphere, which again would lead us to underestimate how high the standard enthalpy of combustion was. Now, the difficulty with this, of course, is that if you have a lid on, it makes it a little bit harder to read the thermometer, and also it makes it harder to stir it. And that stirring is important because if the thermometer is in one part of the water that is slightly hotter or slightly cooler, that's going to impact our results. So we want to be stirring consistently so that all of the water is at the same temperature. We also need to be aware that if there's incomplete combustion and we have a smoky flame, then not all of the energy that is in the fuel is going to be released, and then again that will lead us to a lower value than it actually should be. As you already know, the definition for standard enthalpy of combustion is the enthalpy, or you could say heat energy change, when 1 mole of a substance is burned or reacts completely in oxygen with all reactants and products in their standard states. So it's worth considering that in your own A-level chemistry lab, you probably have a setup a little bit like this on the left, but setups like the one on the right do also exist. And a big advantage of this would be that our reaction is completely enclosed, and that would therefore mean that there are far less losses to the atmosphere and to the environment, and therefore it's a more efficient system, and therefore we would be more likely to get a value that is closer to the true value for the standard enthalpy of combustion for that fuel. The point of this practical is not just to calculate how much energy has been released, but to then use that information to estimate a value for standard enthalpy of combustion. So in order to do this, firstly, we are going to need to know the energy that's been released. And as we've discussed, this is initially going to be calculated in joules, but you're going to need to convert it to kilojoules. And then you're also going to need to know the moles of fuel that have been burned. And so we can work this out by weighing our spirit burner at the start and the end of the reaction, and then doing the mass change divided by the relative formula mass of that particular fuel. So a quick progress check for you. Why do you not need to measure the mass of the water? Do you expect the value that you calculate to be higher or lower than the true value, and why? And what is the advantage of using a copper calorimeter over a beaker sat on a tripod? So you don't need to measure the mass of the water because we know that water has a density of 1, so 1 centimetre cubed has a mass of 1 gram. We expect that the value that we calculate will be lower or less negative due to incomplete combustion, heat losses to the calorimeter and the atmosphere, and also inadequate stirring. And glass is a poorer thermal conductor, and we would also see heat losses to a metal tripod. Within the practical, you've probably used a results table that looks like this. So this is the exact one that I give to my year 12s when they do this practical. So throughout the course of the practical, you're going to write down the start temperature before you light the spirit burner and the final temperature when it's stopped rising, and then the mass of the spirit burner before and after you've lit it. And then you're also going to calculate the relative formula mass of each of the fuels that you use. So in this instance, it's 1 carbon, 4 hydrogen, 1 oxygen, which gives us a total value of 32. So now you can work out the temperature change and also the mass change. And we can use those to work out a value for Q. So in this instance, that will be 3,155.9. Remember that in this, we're doing the mass of the water, not the spirit burner, multiplied by 4.18, which is the specific heat capacity of water, multiplied by the change in temperature. I can now take the mass change of the spirit burner and the MR and work out the number of moles used, and that's going to be quite a small number. And then I can then work out, you can see that delta H is kilojoules per mole, so I'm going to take my energy in kilojoules, so it's now only 3.1559 kilojoules and divide that by the number of moles to give me a value of -297. And of course, this is a negative number because combustion is an exothermic reaction. Okay, so let's just look at that calculation one more time. The first thing I'm going to do is to work out a value for the amount of energy that was released from burning the fuel. So this is going to be M, and remember that's the mass of the water, not the fuel, multiplied by the specific heat capacity, which you do get given in the question, but it's basically always water, which is 4.18, multiplied by the change in temperature. So that's giving me a value of 3,155.9 joules, which I then need to convert to kilojoules. Next, I'm going to look at the mass of the fuel burned and use that together with the relative formula mass to work out the number of moles that have been used in that reaction. So this is why it doesn't really matter if you're not absolutely perfect with your timing, because even though the temperature might be slightly different, the moles would also be accounted for. So then I can take that number of moles together with the energy that's been released to work out an overall energy transfer. And in this instance, that's 297 kilojoules per mole. Now, is that a reasonable answer? Well, actually, our data book value is -726. So it's a much more negative value. It's a much more exothermic value. Why is that? Well, this is because of our heat losses to the calorimeter and the atmosphere, incomplete combustion, and also potentially insufficient stirring. Here's an opportunity for you to pause the video and check that you're confident completing this type of calculation on your own. So hopefully you remember that the equation that you need at the start is Q equals mc delta T, where M is the mass of the water that's been heated, so here it's 100 grams, C is given in the question, and delta T is going to be 65.2 minus 22, so that will be 43.2. So if you put all that together, then you should get a value for Q of 18,057.6 joules, which we then need to convert to kilojoules by dividing by 1,000. Then you're going to use the mass of the fuel burned and the relative formula mass of methanol and put those together to get the number of moles of methanol. So do the mass divided by the MR. Then we can put that together with our value for Q in kilojoules, and that's going to give us a standard enthalpy of combustion of -642 kilojoules per mole. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you're now feeling more confident about both the practical and the calculations involved in flame calorimetry. If you did find this video useful, then don't forget to like and subscribe for more A-level chemistry revision resources coming soon.